Hey, this is Ombring Capital, back with another video update. So, I got asked by a lot of people over time, when are you making an update? What are your thoughts on the market? Are you doing a podcast? Etc. etc. And whilst I appreciate those comments, it shows that people have taken interest in my views on the market. Um, it's not something I ever really considered making a thing. I've been quite open since the beginning of my publications of my ideas and strategies that I never considered this as something that would ever take off because the and by take off I mean the social media side of the endeavor, because when you understand that the strategies only work because they're understood by few people, and that the whole underpinning, at least psychologically and fundamentally, obviously there's a lot of technical data on this chart and with my analysis tools, but fundamentally that approach only works, the sort of contrarian view only works if you are in the minority. And as such, I've never really put a premium on publicizing the ideas or publicizing myself. And therefore, I was able to let almost a year go by without making a video because I was just engaged and my attention was distracted elsewhere. I forgot about Twitter. I lost the need to post charts even because I was just tracking the markets. So that explains why there's not this kind of constant stream of content. And that will never be, it'll never be any different. With that out of the way, let's analyze the markets and see where we are at, both on a crypto specific basis, but also fundamentally uh, as it relates to all markets. And in doing that, I'll analyze the technical side of the crypto markets and the wider traded markets like currencies, stocks, and uh, bonds. But then, whilst I don't often do this, I think the time is right in the world to discuss some fundamental aspects that might affect the coming months and years ahead. So let's look at this. Let's start with crypto. Let's just start with this Bitcoin chart. What's happening? I don't believe this is very good for the Bitcoin bulls. I'm not even going to harp back to previous things that I've said, like some sort of validation seeking child. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're watching this video, you're probably one of the 4 people who actually follow what I say, and you know that I've been calling this as a sort of a double top, macro double top, and that the price action, like I called it even before the halving when they were coiling this spring up here. I was like, they're gonna run for the highs through the halving in April, which was here, right as price entered the containment zone of the short term time frame, was when the halving was happening. And I basically felt before this price action even got put in that they were going to run these highs in a similar way to this structure here. Was this? They ran the highs, people thinking that it was 100K imminent, but look what they did. They fucking they. I'm gonna try not curse, even though that one curse is basically meant that the video is gonna have to be marked as not safe for kids. Not that I think any kids are watching this, but they totally fucked you. Like, look at this. Look at this. Like, look how you remember how euphoric. Be intellectually honest about how euphoric you were here, and look what they did to you. Look what they did to you. So my idea is basically that this is a macro. If you kind of take this pattern and you blow it up, it becomes this pattern, and that's all they've done here is run these highs from the previous all-time high. Like they made the high, they ran the high, they ran the high, they sent you into a depression. Therapy bills were really high during this time, and ran the highs again. And that really does seem to be the overwhelming picture of what has occurred here. That as we enter the short-term time frame and the monthly time frame, you enter that, and you're getting this again, and you're getting an extension beyond. because these prices are fractal and they follow Newton's laws, and the degree to which it goes up, it will go down, and the degree to which it goes up, it will go down, and there's a coiling of energy. And then you probably get some pattern like this, and then you get your bull market in like 2029. But I'm here to say that you need to just accept this rather than lament it. And I think as a psychological lesson, the less you expect, or the more flexible your expectations are, the less disappointment you will feel when the world inevitably plays out in a slightly different way to what you envisaged. So, Bitcoin and crypto, obviously, generally, because Bitcoin is the directioner of crypto, not looking good. This is very bad for anyone who thinks 100K is coming. This price action is exactly what you would expect to see if this level was being stop hunted. And we're going to have to go to the index chart for me to make this historical point that in no time in Bitcoin's history, because you love talking about Bitcoin's history as a basis or as a means of justifying silly price predictions when the macroeconomic and even the technical situation in the asset that you're trading doesn't even support your thesis. But anyway, on a weekly basis, or let's just go on a monthly basis so we can fit it in. Never, when breaching the all-time high, did Bitcoin piss about before continuing in the direction that you all thought it was going to go. Breach of the high, new all-time high. Breach of the high, new all-time high. Breach of the high for 1 month, but then immediately continuing. Even in the last bull market, breach of the high, and it went full send to 60K. Look what happened. The only time in history it breached the high with wicks or kind of questionable price action, because you can't really be time frame dependent in how you analyze the price action, because this is a wick, but on a lower time frame, it was this. Do you understand what I mean by that? So you have to be flexible in your interpretation of price action and be more holistic in what it means. But look what happened. This was an all-time high with consolidation, retrace consolidation, and poke, and then rejection, and you got a brutal, unexpected by the mainstream bear market. Look what's happening again. If we call this the last all-time high, but really we can call this range the all-time high. This range here. Look what we're seeing. We're seeing the same thing again. We are not seeing confident bull price action indicating that the bids are getting taken. You're seeing stuttering. Now, yes, I'm wrong if this resolves upward and consolidates on that level and then continues. Of course. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'm just saying on balance of probabilities, if you're bullish Bitcoin in the coming years, you're not going to get what you think you're going to get. So if we consider what that would look like, if we just go back to the Coinbase chart, because it's a little bit better in terms of its... I do believe we're going to see extended bleeding, just like if you, and I've shared this on Twitter, the breakdown from this location looked like this on the daily time frame. This is the weekly time frame. So my whole thesis on this, and when I throw the word thesis at something, I'm not fucking around. The whole thesis is that this pattern here is a bigger fractal of what has just occurred. And that we are going to, if you consider this low on the weekly time frame is this low on the monthly time frame, you're going to get bleed through that level in the same way, which takes us back down to the COVID levels. And why wouldn't they go there? My whole premise from the whole market maker make you do the wrong thing at all times to steal your money method is they will go back. I'm quoting myself now, and I don't mean to quote myself, but it's an important point because it runs central. It's been consistently lectured in my content that the market maker will take price to places where he has been able to commit retail on the wrong side of the market once before. That is why stop hunts occur. This is proof. All of these wicks that end up getting revisited are proof that if you're a fool once, you'll be a fool again. And the market maker knows this better than anyone because he made you a fool the first time. So he just repeats the playbook. And we have this COVID low. That low specifically, I'm just going to put a long-term call out there. The date is the 9th of July, 2024. Bitcoin is at 57K. I'm in the minority saying that it's not going to 100K. I think sub 10K before 100K is the official call. But specifically, put a Bitcoin order below $3,800 on Coinbase. And I believe before the year 2030, you will get filled. And then you have this entire universe of price to play with in terms of a return on your investment. And that's a good risk-reward trade. But in my opinion, what they're doing here, the scumbaggery around the halving, it's different to previous halvings. Halving 2020, I remember it, happened here. This was a consolidation, a generally upward moving consolidation after a massive negative time. You need to think about this. The consolidation that came after the halving came after negativity, fucking global pandemic. And this crash that went from 10.5K to 3.5K in like 5 weeks. It went from 8K to 3K in a day. I remember. The narrative that follows, or the narrative that accompanies a consolidation, should be viewed in line of the prevailing macro narrative that went before it. Consolidation after the halving in May 2020. An initial markup out of the range. A test on top of the consolidation range. Full send. What did you have in the time leading up to the consolidation that came after the 2024 halving? It went from 15K to 73K. And you think this is a bullish consolidation into the halving. They're cutting the supply issuance in half after taking it up from 15K to 70K, taking out that fake all-time high and that fake all-time high and that fake all-time high, consolidating it, breaking down this wick hunt, this wick price stop hunt action. And now they're below it on a closing basis, retesting the underside with that macro fractal. And I haven't even talked about the other markets and the geopolitical situation that is going to lead to this. But I might not even discuss that anymore because the technical price point and the psychological argument is strong enough to suggest that Bitcoin has topped. I never rule out a stop hunt of the high. Just like you see here in the end of October 2021, they did take out the 65 April high. But then if future stop above that, they went for you again. So I never rule out the coming back again. So that the stop at that all-time high now of 73,835 is not a sacrosanct high. They could come back for it. It doesn't look like they're going to on the basis of this price action. But you need to consider consolidations and the narrative that associates consolidations in the context of the price action that preceded it on a macro basis. To make the point once again, from June 2019 to basically the halving, we had this sideways negative bleed, serious mega dump through all these levels. And then you had that immediate recovery, consolidation, retest, full send. Here you have had this doom and gloom story, FTX marking the bottom. Just like remember that. It should be so obvious at this point. Any viewers of my content, I shouldn't even have to get this irate about it. It should be like as simple as the sky is blue in the day and black in the night. Obviously, who would not know that? But yet here I am time and time again having to explain the situation. Doom and gloom mark the bottom. Having supply issuance, oh, it's scarce. It's valuable. The Bitcoin standard. Everybody reads Saifedean's book. So we all buy the top again. You know, I'm not saying the concepts aren't good or that sound money isn't a real thing or that we really need a scarce cryptocurrency, not even a scarce cryptocurrency, just some scarce value medium that we can not fuck our economies and have to manipulate interest rates in order to fix the fuck ups that we've caused by having a weak money that's able to be manipulated and printed at will. But alas, here we are. Bitcoin, despite the libertarian good news, is wholly manipulated by the people that the proponents of Bitcoin think they are replacing. And that is the saddest irony I've ever heard in my entire life, and I don't think it will ever be topped by anything at all, is that the proponents of Bitcoin think they're replacing the very people that are manipulating Bitcoin to look as valuable as they think it is, and that reinforces their freedom ideals. It is tragic, it is sad. When the shit hits the fan and that $3,800 order is filled on Coinbase, I do feel bad for people who will get fucked by that, and will have not only money loss, but will have ideological positions shattered because it will be too, or maybe the cognitive dissonance just becomes too strong and they don't fully accept it was some black swan, whatever black swan will be used to send Bitcoin that low. World War III, obviously the Conservative Party replaced in the UK by the more global government favoured uh, Labour Party. Keir Starmer will obviously be more amenable to a global escalation of war, as will Trump when he gets in. It's clear that despite Biden being obviously dementia ridden, and which is obviously extremely sad, but still we need to view it from the point of view of being in charge of the world. That's been known for years before he even got elected, and yet it's a big issue now. Why is it a big issue now? Who did he? What country did he try to rein in? What country did he try to cut funding to, or dictate to them how they would operate their military formations? Yes, I'm not saying it, but that country is going to pull the world into a global conflict, and they need people in charge who are going to be amenable to that. So you've seen the conservatives who are more kind of nationalistic minded would be not as likely. Remember who was in charge of the United Kingdom the last time the US staged a major incursion in 2003. It was not the Conservative Party, it was the party that has just come to power in the UK. Who was the US government at the time that same conflict happened? Yes, it was the party that is going to undoubtedly win in November. Trump is obviously a shoo-in. They're going to move Biden off stage. His replacement, whoever it is probably Kamala. Like I tweeted in 2020, what happens first, Bitcoin 100K or Kamala replaces Joe? And it looks like a old OBC is going to be right once again. But that is to say, the geopolitical situation is winding up to a global conflict. And what does a global conflict do to markets? Well, okay, let's take one step back. What does a global conflict create? A global conflict creates uncertainty. What do markets fucking hate more than anything? What do market participants hate more than anything? Uncertainty. But you might say, Umbre Capital, isn't it your whole thing that the market makers run the markets and they're funded by the banks that are funding these wars? Why does that matter? Yeah, that is true. But who are they selling to? People who uncertainty scares the shit out of and will not participate in markets that are falling or that are too volatile or that are uncertain. What happens when a global conflict kicks off? So I'm just saying, whatever the black swan is, that was a brief segue into geopolitical affairs. Another non-trading prediction is that there will be a Trump presidency in 2024, or technically 2025, but Trump will be elected in 2024, and it will be an interesting political spectacle to see on socio political issues, the US and the UK having a strained relationship, but at the same time supporting the warmongering funders of both parties will support whatever geopolitical conflict happens in the Middle East and towards Asia and Russia, and maybe China and Taiwan get involved, and then we're all just totally fucked. And realistically, if all that happens, you may not even the checking your fill notification at 3700 on Coinbase may not be near the top of your priorities. But that is back to the technical case. Umbre Capital thinks Bitcoin is topped sub 10K before 100K. I've explained why on a technical basis and on a psychological basis, and maybe I'll make a video in another year. Good luck.